Wonderful. So, welcome to all of you. This is the Work It series. We're going to be doing different presentations throughout pretty much the month of September. After the month of September, that's why we're recording this presentation so that others can go back and watch these later on in the semester if they so choose. You guys can watch them later on once they're posted on the Dornsife Career Pathways website. So every pretty much Wednesday and Thursday throughout the month of September, you are going to have access. Again, this is fall of 2024 for those of you watching in the future. We're grateful to have you. Today's topic is assess it. So deciding your career path, kind of creating a career path and a career goal. First of all, I want to explain who we are. Dornsife Career Pathways is the Dornsife Career Advising Office. We are very similar to the Central Career Center, but we specifically work with Dornsife majors. So hopefully you are all Dornsife majors. If not, we want to welcome you anyways. So what we do here at Dornsife Career Pathways is a whole bunch of things. We have advising appointments. We have the Ask John podcast, so you can listen to some podcasts, career advising work at seminars, career opportunities, a whole bunch of things. I recommend you check out the website, the Dornsife Career Pathways website, so you can gain all of this information for yourself. What we are going to be focusing on today are three different goals. Goal number one is identifying your personal attributes and preferences relevant to your career interests. So kind of that self-assessment. That's what the topic of today is assess it. Goal number two is identify actions to assess and explore career interests, building that kind of process and momentum forward. It's no good to kind of have an idea of who you are, what you want to do, if you don't have steps to move forward and act upon it. And goal number three is to apply your assessment in exploration, in career planning. So self-discovery and assessment. So the self-discovery path, the self-assessment path really begins in 5 different areas, which are personality, abilities and skills, interests, values, and experience. And we're going to be going through each of these sections individually. But just kind of in general, when you're deciding your career path, no matter where you are in your career path, maybe you don't have any idea what you want to do, or maybe later on you're like, okay, this is kind of the general field I want to be in, but I want to hone it down a little bit more succinctly or pinpoint it. These are the areas in which we want to kind of be creating that career goal and that career path. Does your career match your personality? Does your career match your abilities and skills? If not, what abilities or skills do you need to develop? Does this career match your interests? Does it match your values? And what I mean by values, those are often considered, for example, how much money do you need to sustain the lifestyle that you want to live? Is family time a huge priority for you? Is travel a huge priority for you? What are the things that are key parts of who you are? Those are your values. And then experience. What experiences have you had? And what experiences do you need to move forward in your career interests? So self-discovery. There are a couple of different ways we can do the personality and the interest. 2 of my favorite ones are Career One Stop, 16 Personalities, VMOC. If you are not familiar with VMOC, go to Handshake, go to the Resources tab, type in VMOC. VMOC is a fantastic resource. We're going to get into it in different Work It presentations. VMOC is a fantastic tool to not only help you figure out what your personality and your interests are in doing these self-assessments, but as well resumes and cover letters. That's a different topic for a different day, but VMOC is a huge, huge resource for you. Again, Handshake, Resources tab, type in VMOC, and we'll get you there. Here are some other kind of self-assessments that are commonly used: MBTI, Strong Assessment, Clifton Strengths. Now, as you're taking a lot of these self-assessments, no matter what self-assessments you are taking, and we have some on the Dornsife Career Pathways website as well, self-assessment tools are diagnostic. They're there to kind of give you feedback and insight into who you are as a person. What are your interests? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? A lot of times, students or people that I give these self-assessments to who take these self-assessments, they take one of these self-assessments and the result that is given back to them, maybe you took one in high school, is, I don't know, clockmaker. And they come to me and they say, John, I don't want to be a clockmaker. Why would it give me this answer? This test is crap. I don't want to listen to anything it says. And what I say is, whatever results you get, if one of those results happens to pique your interest, absolutely, go ahead, follow it. But if it's like, no, I don't want to be a clockmaker, let's look at the kind of background of, okay, why would you get that result of clockmaker? Clockmakers, for example, they are very kind of fine motor skills, they focus on fine things. They're kind of generally work alone. They're not doing a lot of interpersonal interactions. They work in an office, not necessarily outside. So using these self-assessments, sometimes if it gives you an answer of like, oh, that's interesting, follow that, run with it. But if it doesn't give you kind of the prescriptive things that you're looking for, it's time to take a step back and say, okay, let's look at the reasoning behind those answers. So when you're doing these kind of self-assessments, the next steps are the abilities, skills, and experiences. That's where your degree is going to come in. Degrees allow you to kind of point a direction towards a career path. So for example, my degree is in psychology. My undergraduate degree and my graduate degree is in psychology. Could I have taken my psychology degree and done something outside of kind of the psychological fields? Absolutely. But what my degree kind of prepared me for, it gave me the abilities, the experiences, and the skills to be prepared for the psychology field. Same thing with whatever your major is. It will prepare you with the abilities and skills and help you understand, okay, these are the classes you're taking. This is the content, the abilities or skills or experiences that you're going to be getting. Is that interesting to you? Does it match your values? If the answer is no, okay, then we need to realign, readjust. So in order to gain these experiences, these abilities, these skills, there are a few kind of co-curricular, meaning in addition to your classes you're taking, experiential opportunities that you can apply into your career path. There is experiential education, research on campus, Maymester, joint educational project, volunteering, and just kind of getting out into the community, attending clubs that are here on campus doing that stuff. Another way, you are all very, very familiar with it, is internships and jobs. The number one place that I recommend finding internships and jobs is Handshake. Handshake is tailored for USC students. All of the employers on there had to set up their profiles and come to USC, come to USC's Handshake. So going onto Handshake, exploring there, that's going to be the number one place to find internships and jobs. As well, there are the third-party databases that you're all familiar with. Those are the LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, those types of third parties. Something else that I also recommend to you is going to company specific. So for example, if you want to work at USC, type in careers at USC. If you want to work at JP Morgan, type in careers or internships at JP Morgan, going directly to the source. The last kind of internship job kind of information that I want to talk to you about, it's on the screen right now, that number 2, which is the Gateway Internship Program. This is a program that Dornsife puts on every year, every summer. The application opens up in early spring, so mid-January is when it opens up. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to be attached to and get funding for your internships. So just tuck that in the back of your brain. Every spring semester, the Gateway Internship Program via the Dornsife Career Pathways, be aware of that, tuck it into the back of your brain. The next section we're going to discuss in the PAVE kind of ideology is values. What matters to you? What are the company values? What does the company stand for? What are they working towards? Are they working towards solely profit? Are they working towards helping the environment, being very, very green? Are they working towards athletics, if they're an athletics company and health and all of those good things, what are the company values? Do they align with your values? What is the financial compensation benefits? What are you going to get paid? Is there opportunities for career advancement, or are you going to kind of stay at the same level for most of your career, which for some people is a good thing? What sort of training, development, and personal growth do you have? Do you have interest in the industry? Especially post-COVID, we are seeing a lot of remote or hybrid models. Is that something that's important to you in kind of your work decisions? That's something that only you can answer. And it's going to be very, very unique to each of you. Some of your friends, classmates, whatever, their values, and so what their goals are, their career path is going to be different based on their values. So this is something very important to not only think about early on, but to continue to develop and think about. What is important to you, what matters to you, and then applying those answers to kind of your career goals and career paths. So once we've kind of done this internal assessment, we've found out what our personality and interests are. We found out what our values are. We have found out what our skills are and what experiences we want to have. The next step is exploration. We now know what we want. Now we are going out into the world and figuring out what is out there. So in kind of the circle of creating your experiential and what is out there, there are more active and more passive. We will be talking about the passive right now, real quick. Those are just kind of Google searches. These are some fantastic websites that are very, very good that help you figure out, okay, what does this career mean? What can I do with this major? What does this job title entail? It's kind of that informational. You're not doing anything physically, but you're kind of learning about it. You're doing the research. And then we have active. Experiential learning by doing, that's internships, that's research, that's the things that we often think about. And then as well, informational interviews. Informational interviews, means you are meeting with a professional in that field. You are talking to them. What does their day-to-day life look like? How did they get into that field? What are the pros and cons of that field? And how can somebody prepare to enter that field? For informational interviews, for an example on informational interviews, you're going to want to check out the Ask John podcast. On the Ask John podcast, I do informational interviews with professionals all the time. And so you can kind of see how those informational interviews work. So these are kind of the different ways we start exploring and finding out what is out there when it comes to putting together a career path and career goals. A fantastic resource, and one that I really, really want to highlight, is what can I do with this major? So to find it, you log on to Handshake, you go to the Career Center, online resources, search what can I do with this major. You can also go to the Dornsife specific resources. It's at the bottom. Go to it, and you're going to find the major that matches most closely to the major you have. What can I do with this major is a resource put on by the University of Tennessee. So sometimes their majors are different from USC's majors. But I super, super recommend, no matter where you are in your career path, even if you're like, I know 100% what career I want to go into, I recommend you look at what can I do with this major, because it has so many more resources. It has tips on how to get into different careers. It has job posting boards. It is a fantastic, fantastic resource. That's why we're spending the extra time to highlight this one. What can I do with your major, with this major, is fantastic. Again, Handshake, Career Center, online resources, and then search for what can I do with this major. I recommend checking it out today. Some other really, really good kind of exploratory resources are the BLS website, the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, and ONET. These are not job posting sites. These are sites where you can look up different job titles and find out, what does that job title mean? What does this person do? It's information. It's strictly information. It will give you the national average of what you can expect to be paid. It has information on what sort of degree you need, whether that's a bachelor's, master's, PhD, or whatever it might be. These two websites are very, very good for just kind of giving you that basic information. So ways to kind of set up informational interviews as well as on-campus events. This falls into networking. We have an entire Work It series on networking. I recommend you come to that one as well, where we will dive much, much deeper than about a minute or two on networking. Attend that one. But for kind of setting up informational interviews, talking to professionals, you want to attend networking events. So again, if you go to Handshake, you click on the events tab, you'll be able to see what employers are coming to USC campus in the coming days and weeks. Attend those events as much as you can. Even if it's not 100% the field you want to go into, it is always very, very valuable to get experience just being in that professional setting, talking to professionals about what they do day in and day out. As far as finding networking opportunities, again, we'll dive deeper into this in its own dedicated Work It series presentation, but a good one is a website called the Trojan Network, also LinkedIn. There's a program that is done through Dornsife Career Pathways called the Alumni Mentorship Program. We have an entire tab on it on our website. Check out the Alumni Mentorship Program. It is a program in which you are paired one-on-one with an alumni mentor. So let's say you want to go into being an entertainment agent. You want to be an agent to the movie stars. We have an alumni who is an agent. You will be paired with that person and work with them for about 15, 16 weeks in learning what they do throughout the course of their day. That is a program that you can apply for. Typically, it starts in the fall. So applications for each fall start midsummer. So June, July is when you're going to want to look at that for the future. Also, you can do in-class networking. That's professors, classmates, and all those good people who you interact with day in and day out. Get to know them. Get to know your professors, especially if you're considering graduate school, especially if you have classmates that are going on and are very driven. Get to know them. Build that network now so in the future, you still maintain that network for future career pivots or career plans. Like I talked about, a really great resource is LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn, I should specify to University of Southern California, USC's page on LinkedIn, there's a tab for alumni. That's how you search for alumni. You can search alumni by title, their title, a keyword. You can put in your major and find out what alumni have that major. You can put in a company that they work at, and you can see a ton of information and find and reach out to these alumni. Just kind of showing where to find these buttons, alumni tab, search by alumni. When you are reaching out to people, whether that is via the Trojan Network, whether that is LinkedIn, you want to keep a few things in mind. Not everyone checks their LinkedIn every day. So if you don't get a response, that's okay. Typically, on average, about 1 in 8 people reply to cold call / networking. So that means if you want a response, you're going to have to reach out to a fair few people. So be prepared to send a few messages, not just 1 or 2. Make sure to be authentic. When in doubt, do more research on the person. There is 2 different ways to kind of build these connections. There's cold messaging, and then there's mutual connection. As much as possible, we want to build that mutual connection. How you do that is you relate to the person the best you can. So if you're reaching out to somebody in a biotech firm, you reach out to them and say, hello, my name is Jeff. I'm a biology major at USC. We have a mutual connection, this person. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes to connect for an informational interview chat? That's kind of the messaging you want to send. The more connections you can build, the more likely the person is to reach out to you. Because if they don't, you can tell their friend, Lena, that, hey, Jeff never answered me. Can you talk to him? And that kind of has that social construct kind of built in. So feel free to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I encourage you to do it. Just know you're probably going to have to send a fair few messages. When you're making these messages, you want to first introduce yourself. Again, build as many connections as you possibly can. Connect with them as a person, connect with them via their major or the professors that you took, whatever it is, build that connection and then make your ask. Your ask should be something very, very simple. Do you have 5 or 10 minutes to meet over coffee or do a Zoom meeting? Something very easy, not going to take up a lot of their time. If they agree, set up a Zoom phone call, follow their lead. If they disagree, ask if you can add to their network, reach out to them later. This is kind of a general guide to informational interviews. These are the suggested questions you can ask. How would you describe the environment you work in? What types of special skills are necessary to perform your job? What do you like most about your job? What do you like least about your job? What is your undergraduate major field of study? Ask them the important questions, but you want to make it very professional. You want to stay on topic about what they do and how they do it. Again, if I may brag a little bit, some pretty good examples of informational interviews are found on the Ask John podcast. You can find that on Spotify. You can find that on the Dorrance Career Pathways website. And those are some examples of how this conversation can go. You will see it's a very easy conversation. It's just talking to people. That's kind of a really big thing, is that people want to talk about what they do. These professionals are spending at least 40 hours a week in their career. And they want to talk about that. They want to talk to you about it. They want to either tell you about all the great things that they do, or maybe kind of steer you away from that job field, kind of the pitfalls of that job field. And that's valuable information when you are, like we're talking about today, assessing your career path. Is this where I want to go? You're doing those assessments. So I highly recommend informational interviews. So some assessment tools, resources, and this is how I would talk to a student, so a sample student. Number one, they take one of these self-assessments. This one is the 16 personalities. So we get to know, okay, this is their personality type. Based on their personality type, these are some careers that will kind of help them succeed. Now, a lot of these look like teachers. Maybe this person doesn't want to be a teacher. That would tell me as a career advisor that something that would be interesting to them is working one-on-one with people, maybe being a career advisor, an academic advisor, being a academic administrator. So kind of taking it from that angle. Once they kind of have an idea of what do they want to do, what's important to them, we start considering career paths. We start looking on what can I do with this major. We start looking on ONET. We start looking at a variety of places of, okay, what is now out there? Once we know what's out there, we want to create a career plan. This is like any part of your life. The more you have a plan to follow, the more you're going to eventually be able to adapt that plan as needed. So kind of the steps that we've already discussed is self-discovery, exploration, skill development, and job search. Those are kind of the steps that you're going to want to process. And this is the same for no matter where you are in your career journey. You want to start with who are you? What's important to you? What's not important to you? Explore what is out there. What does that mean? What do your values mean? If you need to, start developing skills, changing skills. If you're already in a career path, developing new skills, changing so you can pivot into a new area, and then doing the thing. That's probably the hardest step. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is you have to take action. You have to do the job search. You have to apply. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So when developing your career identity, maybe you know what you want to do. Now what do? You take an inventory of your skills. What do you have? What do you need to have? And what is the difference between the two? You acquire those skills. You take additional classes. You do certifications, online certifications through organizations. You do internships. You start building your network. You start doing the thing. You start building your career identity. Once you kind of have an idea of, okay, these are the skills I have, these are the things I want to do, a good way to start building your career path or your career goal or your career plan is by following this kind of organization where we start with 5 to 7 industries. These are career paths. For example, tech, healthcare, consulting, hospitality, government, academia, whatever the industry is. These are very, very broad. We are starting broad and we are reverse pyramiding down to the very, very specific. So we want to find 5 to 7 paths, areas, industries, whatever word you want to use. Then we focus from the 5 to 7 industries. We find 8 to 10 companies within a specific industry, maybe just 8 to 10 in general. You decide based on their values, their culture, their reputations, what they pay, all of the good research that you've already done. What does that mean? What companies fit with what you want? So 5 to 7 industries, 8 to 10 companies, and then we start looking at positions. You find information on positions based on ONET, based on some of the other research websites we've talked about. You start looking on Handshake at the specific job postings and positions. Like I talked about, it is also a very, very good idea to go to the company specific, careers at USC, careers at JP Morgan, careers at Deloitte Consulting. What careers are open? What positions are open? And you go position. So industry, company, position. That's kind of the way you formulate your career path once you've done the self-assessments and the exploration. These are the action steps. You can think of them that way. We have a number of action plan resources on our website, the step-by-step, the semester career plan, the 4-year milestone. It doesn't matter what sort of plan you're using. I just recommend you write out a plan. Okay, freshman year or first year, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do over the next 2 or 3 months. This is what I'm going to do for the next 2 or 3 months, so on and so forth. That you can expand that over years, or you can contract that over a week at a time. But having some sort of plan makes yourself accountable to yourself, as well as keeps you on track for your goals. So I recommend using some sort of action plan, creating some sort of plan for yourself. We have a few examples here, but you can use whatever. As well, on top of getting into the workforce, there is also continued education. There is certificates. These are specialized training in a specific field. So certificates in programming, in Python, in R, whatever it might be. This is specific training. Next, in continued education, this is master's. This is professional education, professional training and education. Usually 1 to 3 years, full-time or part-time, kind of a next step after your undergraduate, getting a little bit more specialization. Another option is professional doctorate. So this is your law degrees, JDs, going to medical school, becoming a medical doctor, PsyD. These are 3 to 6 years. It's very practitioner and research oriented. It's very hands-on. You're going to be doing the thing, whatever it is that you're going into for these professional doctorates. And then we have PhD. This is a program where you are creating the knowledge. It's very research focused. So if you want to be doing the thing, maybe a professional doctorate or a master's degree, if you want to be creating the knowledge, kind of doing research on it, a PhD route could be a route for you, depending on what you want to do. And continued education, getting your graduate degree, that is part of your career plan. It can set you up more for your career future, or maybe it's not part of your plan, and that's okay too. You don't have to go to graduate programs. You don't have to get certificates, but it can be helpful. And so that's just a very case-by-case situation for whatever you need it to be. that is the end of our presentation today, Deciding Your Career Path. I want to thank you guys for all coming today. I want to open it up to questions if you have them. I'm going to stop the recording before I do so. Again, I want to thank those of you who came and hope you enjoyed it. Now we're going to stop the recording so that we can have more individual specific questions if anyone has them.